That night was supposed to be a quiet dinner with my wife and a few of her old friends. Just a new fusion restaurant, packed to the brim, shoulder to shoulder just to get through the lobby. Clinking glasses, background music bleeding into garlic butter and expensive perfume. I wasn't comfortable, but I showed up because she wanted me to. We sat in the corner. Tessa's friends were already there. 3 of them, loud laughs, heavy pours. I stayed quiet. I'm always the one who balances the energy, as she used to say. It started with a totally normal question. One of them, blonde girl, probably Jill, asked how we met. I was about to answer, but Tessa jumped in before I could get a word out. She smiled, swirling her wine glass like she was warming up for a performance. Then said, "Honestly, I picked him because I was tired." Everyone laughed. I didn't. I had dated way too many attractive, chaotic guys. Lucas was different, stable, predictable, low maintenance. He didn't argue. He didn't demand anything. He's like a good couch. Not sexy, but comfortable. I wasn't even sure I heard her right. But then she kept going. He's not the guy who makes my heart race, but at least I know he'd never leave me. He can't live without me. The laughter at the table got softer. That awkward kind of laugh people do when they're not sure if it's actually funny. Jill glanced at me like she was trying to read the room. I turned to Tessa. She was still smiling, twirling her wine, flipping her hair like this was just some casual roast night. I placed my hand over hers. Gently. No pressure. Just the silent signal I'd used 100 times before to say, "That's enough," without calling attention to it in public. She pulled her hand back like I'd touched something off limits. Still facing the group, she said, "What? I'm just being honest." That line, so casual, hit harder than any insult I've ever heard. I looked around. Mike was staring at the menu for the 3rd time like it had magically changed. Erin was doom-scrolling her phone like it was a lifeline. No one said a word. No one told her to stop. And in that silence, I realized they knew she'd crossed a line. But they also knew none of them were strong enough to call her out. Or worse, they were used to it. I looked straight at Tessa. No more gentle cues, no more hand-holding or soft glances. I was done trying. I grabbed my water glass and poured it over my steak. Then I stood up, laid the napkin neatly on my plate. Didn't say a word. Didn't ask to be excused. Didn't look back. I heard the silverware pause. Someone held their breath. Someone else cleared their throat. But no one stopped me. And that's when I knew. I wasn't part of this dinner anymore. I was just a prop, something that made her look more interesting. And I was too damn tired of being that background character. So I left. If you've ever been humiliated by someone who was supposed to love you, in front of people who just watched it happen, like this video, you're not alone. I walked a few blocks to the parking lot. My hands were shaking so bad it took me a minute just to pull the keys out of my pocket. I got in the car but didn't start it. Just sat there in the dark. My palms were still wet, smelling faintly of soda and steak, that weird sweet-salty combo lingering on my shirt. I stared out the windshield, the streetlights sliding over light streaks of rain, and I asked myself, did I really just do that? Is this actually over? Then I laughed. Softly. Not because it was funny, but because the whole thing felt like some crappy soap opera scene. So absurd, it was almost laughable. My phone started buzzing. Tessa, then Jill, then Tessa again. I didn't check, just flipped the phone face down on the passenger seat. I didn't take anything from her except a few personal items I'd tossed in a small bag: wallet, car keys, house keys. When I got home, I didn't go to our bedroom. I took a blanket, a pillow, and my phone into the spare room. The one we once said would be the nursery, if we ever had a baby. But that night, it was the only room in the house where I still felt some shred of self-respect. I closed the door, locked it, not to keep her out, but because I needed silence. Just one small space she hadn't taken over. I didn't lock the front door. I didn't want to start a war. I wasn't trying to escalate things. I just wanted to sleep in a room where I didn't feel like a burden anymore. Around 1 a.m., I heard a car pull up out front. Then the click of high heels on the stone path. She came in. She started pounding on the bedroom door, her voice rising, demanding to know what I was doing, why I'd humiliated her like that. I didn't answer, just lay there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling in the dark. She kept banging, her voice sharp now, screaming that I made her look pathetic, that her friends thought I was unstable, weak. Louder and louder, like if she yelled hard enough I'd feel guilty. I didn't move. She hit the door a few more times, then gave up. But I couldn't sleep. The next morning I woke up early, like muscle memory, made coffee, put on an old t-shirt and sweatpants, checked my phone. First message from Tessa. You need to apologize. No, I'm sorry. No hint that maybe, just maybe, she'd crossed a line. Just, you embarrassed me. Like everything that happened the night before was somehow my fault. I stared at the screen and thought, this is who she is. This is who she's always been. And the worst part? I let it go on for way too long. I left the apartment that morning and drove straight to my parents' house. Yeah, I'm 32. I've got my own place, a steady job, and on paper, I should have been able to handle myself. But that morning, I didn't need independence. I needed safety. I needed a no-judgment look. A cup of coffee made by my mom. She opened the door and didn't even ask what was wrong, just turned and walked to the kitchen, told me to sit down. My dad was already up, watching the morning news. When I told them what happened the night before, he just sat there. No interruptions, no follow-up questions. I spent the whole morning at their kitchen table, sipping cold coffee, pretending to check my email. I felt like a kid again, hiding out at home while a storm still raged outside. Around noon, the messages started rolling in. Not from Tessa, from her friends. The same ones who sat there in silence last night were now suddenly checking in. Hey, you okay? And then, she said you lost control. Did you yell at her? I didn't reply. Just stared at my screen thinking, that was fast. Tessa didn't just refuse to apologize. She was already rewriting the story. I took screenshots of everything, not for revenge, just to remind myself that if I didn't take control of the truth, she would. Around 1 p.m., there was a knock at the door. It was Tessa. Red eyes, messy hair, still wearing the same dress from the night before. No text, no call, just showed up like everything suddenly had to be talked out. She walked in like she still owned the room, sat across from me and launched right into it, loud, fast, frantic, saying I embarrassed her, made her look pathetic, destroyed everything we built. My mom asked her to lower her voice. Tessa ignored her. She stood up, came closer, too close, until I instinctively leaned back. And then, just as my dad stepped in between us, she shouted at him, "You have no right to interfere in someone else's marriage." She tried to push past him. Her hand landed on his shoulder like she was going to move a man who once drove across 3 states in a snowstorm just to pick me up when I was 12 and scared out of my mind. He gently pushed her back, not forcefully, just enough to draw a clear line. Tessa snapped, screaming, flailing her arms, shouting about betrayal, about no one understanding her. Then she kicked a wooden chair over, sending it crashing across the tile with a loud, jarring crack that shattered the stillness of that quiet kitchen. My mom, who has stayed calm through just about everything life's thrown at her, started to cry. Not out of fear, but out of fury, and I'd never seen that in her before. After my dad gently pushed her back, Tessa stood there for a few seconds, chest heaving, fingers clenched tight around the strap of her purse. Her eyes darted around the room like she was still searching for someone, anyone, to back her up. But no one said a word. My mom had turned away, wiping her tears with a tissue. My dad stood still, unflinching, gaze locked in place. Tessa shot me one last look, a mix of fury, and for a split second I swear I saw panic. Then she turned and walked out. The door didn't slam, but it wasn't gentle either. No one spoke for nearly a full minute, just the soft ticking of the wall clock filling the space. I didn't need anyone to say, "It's gonna be okay." I just needed a quiet room. I went upstairs, opened the door to the room on the left, the one I used to sleep in back in high school. The old bookshelf was still there. A few faded posters still clung to the walls. The twin bed looked smaller than I remembered. I sat down, the mattress creaking slightly under me, back against the wall, knees pulled up. My phone kept buzzing. I didn't look. I just needed a few minutes with the ceiling. The only thing in my life right now not asking me to explain anything. Buzz. Another call from Tessa. Then texts from Jill. From a bunch of people I hadn't talked to in ages. Alex messaged, "Dude, what the hell? Call me. This sounds insane." Becky sent, "Wait, did she actually show up at your parents' house?" Word was spreading. Fast. Tessa was clearly already spinning the narrative. Her version, of course. I didn't respond to anyone, just flipped my phone face down and closed my eyes. But I didn't sleep. Truthfully, I thought about driving, just leaving. Turning everything off, phone, apps, expectations, disappearing for a while, like pressing pause on reality. But then another thought crept in. Why should I be the one to run? I didn't do anything wrong. Tessa humiliated me. She twisted the truth. She blew up, right in my parents' kitchen. And if she thought she could spin this into some sob story about her emotionally fragile husband who couldn't handle a strong woman, she had another thing coming. Word spreads fast. Tessa was already rewriting the script, but not this time, not like this. I picked up my phone. I wanted to set the record straight. I opened our old friend groups, cousins, even the family thread with her mom, the one who never really liked me. I didn't care anymore who saw. I typed out a message. Short, no excuses, no blame. Just the truth. I stared at the screen. My finger hovered over send. Then I deleted it. Not because I was afraid, but because I was tired. Tired of proving I wasn't the villain. Tired of defending myself from something so obviously distorted. And deep down, a small part of me hoped, maybe this time, she'd actually look in the mirror. Not for me. For herself. So I put the phone down. Didn't send it. Didn't fight. Didn't explain. Because sometimes, silence is the loudest thing you can say. Have you ever had someone twist the truth to destroy you? Drop your story in the comments. We're listening. I didn't think things could get worse after that night at my parents' house. But, as always, I underestimated Tessa's commitment to being the main character in every single narrative. After the meltdown in our kitchen, I tried to keep to myself upstairs. My mom would knock every so often, gently asking if I wanted something to eat. My dad didn't say much, but whenever I came down for water, he'd still be at the table, giving me this quiet, steady hand on my shoulder. A kind of unspoken, "you're not crazy" gesture. I pretty much camped out in that old room for 2 full days. Wore the same pajamas, sipped cold coffee, ate leftover sandwiches. Did my best to ignore the messages that kept flooding in. But they kept coming. Tessa started with sweet texts, then guilt-tripping ones, then full-on accusations like, "You made me look pathetic." I didn't reply, but that didn't stop her. When I stayed silent, she pivoted, called my mom. And my mom, bless her, isn't great at pretending things are okay, so she put the call on speaker. We all heard it, Tessa sobbing about how I hurt her deeply, how I was turning everyone against her. She even FaceTimed my dad. He held the phone up so she could yell directly at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above him. Here's the thing. I'm not the type to scream or shout, but that doesn't mean I'm weak. I choose silence because I know how this works. If I raise my voice, I become the aggressor. All she has to do is cry, just a little, and suddenly it's, "Poor her. What did he do to make her like this?" I've seen that play out before. And now, it was happening to me. After a day and a half of hiding out, I started to get restless. I couldn't just sit around waiting to see what else Tessa would say, who else she'd twist the truth for. I decided to go back to the apartment, grab some of my stuff, and if she was there, maybe we'd finally talk face to face. I took my dad's car. No way was I dragging a suitcase onto public transit like some sad daytime soap character. The apartment was quiet when I got there. Tessa wasn't home. Her perfume still lingered in the air. On the kitchen counter, stuck to the handle of my coffee mug, was a neon yellow sticky note. "You owe me." No name, no explanation. I almost laughed. Then I noticed the TV and PlayStation were gone. What was left was a pile of laundry on the floor. Very adult of her. I packed a few essentials: clothes, charger, laptop, and a little plant I'd somehow kept alive for 3 years. When I reached the door, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Tessa. She looked at me like I was a thief. Red-faced, eyes sharp, shoulders tense. No hello, just, "You're stealing." She said everything in the apartment belonged to both of us, that I was being insane. Then she stood in the doorway, arms crossed, blocking my exit. I told her to move. She didn't. Just stood there, locking eyes with me, her breath thick with the smell of whiskey, before noon. I stood still, bag on my shoulder, my hand trembling slightly. I tried to stay calm, but she kept going. "You're ruining everything. I'll tell people you abandoned me. I'll tell them you stole from me." I looked at her for a second, didn't say a word, then gently pushed forward, just enough to step past. She grabbed my arm. I pulled away, and said, calm but clear, if she touched me again, I'd call her mother. And we both knew her mom was scarier than any cop. Tessa let go, muttered something I didn't catch, then slammed the door behind me. I sat in the car for a few minutes. Not because I was shaken, because I was exhausted. That night, Alex called. He said, "Just wanted to check if you're okay. Tessa's saying some pretty wild stuff." I asked, "Wild how?" He hesitated, then said Tessa was telling people I attacked her at the apartment, that I tried to steal the TV. I laughed, hard, probably too hard, maybe even a little unhinged, but I couldn't help it. Alex added, "Becky doesn't believe it, but some of the others, they're starting to take sides." I hung up after saying just one thing: "Thanks for asking." And that's when it hit me. With Tessa, if no one's watching, she'll burn the whole room down, just to stand in the spotlight. Anyway, the next few days were chaos. I stayed at my parents' house, and every 5 minutes I caught myself glancing at my phone, like I was bracing for the next explosion. Tessa went off on social media, cryptic stories about betrayal, heartbreak, being deceived by the one you trusted most. Then came the photo, a ripped shirt with a caption that painted me as some abusive monster. The comments rolled in, filled with "stay strong" and "you deserve better." And all I could think was how fast it all turned, how easy it was for the world to pick a side just because she knew how to sound wounded in 20 words or less. That Saturday afternoon, her mom called. A woman who only remembered I existed at Christmas. She didn't even say hello, just launched into a tirade about how her daughter was breaking down, how I ruined everything, and how I needed to come back and make it right. I hung up. A few hours later, Tessa showed up at my parents' house unannounced, barging in like it was still her territory. I was sitting with my dad in the kitchen when I heard the sharp rhythm of heels hitting the tile. She stormed in, locked eyes with my dad, and shouted, "I need to talk to my husband." My dad, who avoids conflict like the plague, calmly told her to take it outside, but she wouldn't. She pushed, she yelled, she performed. When my dad stood up, she doubled down, spitting words like venom. "Do you know your son is weak? He's a burden, a man who lives off pity." I stood up too, looked her dead in the eye, and finally said what had been sharpening in my chest for days. "That's enough, Tessa. I've tolerated this long enough, and I don't want to hit a woman." The whole room went still. I wasn't threatening her. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I was done. That sentence wasn't a warning. It was a line in the sand. I turned to my dad, quietly said, "I'm sorry," and walked upstairs. Behind me, Tessa started crying, loud and theatrical, like she'd just been hit, like she was the center of some tragedy. And the next day, another story posted for the world to see. When all you want is to be heard, but you get silenced with a fist. I didn't respond. I still haven't. Not because I don't have anything to say, but because I've learned the hard way. No one really wants to hear my side. They see a crying woman. They see a man who says nothing. and that's all they need to decide who the villain is. I was done with her lies. So done that all I wanted, just once, was to say everything, exactly as it happened. No sugarcoating, no editing. Sitting alone in my new apartment, I went through all the old messages. Every time she talked about me like I was some deadweight, like I was the clingy one, the burden, screenshots, emails, the things she said to her own friends behind my back, sometimes even sent to me by mistake, and the recording, the one from when she showed up screaming at my parents, calling me a failure. My mom recorded it, just in case. Turns out she was right to. I didn't post it to get revenge. I didn't do it to humiliate her. I did it because I couldn't stay silent forever. I needed people to know the full picture, not twisted, not embellished, just the truth. I said, here it is, no more, no less. Believe it or don't, but stop pretending you don't know. And just like I expected, it hit like a grenade in every old group chat, every dusty Facebook thread people still use to send belated birthday wishes. Some ignored it like they never saw it. Some tried to play the neutral card. You know how marriages are. Things are complicated. But a few, just a few, messaged me directly. I didn't know it was that bad. Thanks for telling the truth. Alex sent me a bunch of scattered texts. No punctuation, jumping from thought to thought. But I understood. It was his way of saying, I'm sorry, without saying it. Becky didn't say anything all day, then dropped a single line. Hope you're okay. Not picking sides, but enough for me to know she saw through it. Tessa, though. She spiraled. Messages from every number she could find, including burner phones. She even had my cousin deliver a handwritten letter, something he read out loud during dinner, making the whole table laugh before tossing it in the trash. Not one word of apology, just blame, for me. For my parents. For the system, like the entire universe was conspiring against her. I didn't respond. No posts, no explanations, just silence. And that silence made her unravel faster than any confrontation ever could. Tessa couldn't handle not being in control of the narrative. And when she couldn't manipulate how people saw her anymore, she started to show who she really was. Lurking outside my parents' house, banging on the door like she wanted to break it down. My dad answered, arms crossed, blocking the doorway without saying a word. No threats, no yelling. My mom called the cops. Tessa left, furious and pathetic. She dragged her mother into it. That woman called my mom every single day, demanding we restore her daughter's reputation. My mom stayed quiet. My dad shrugged and turned the volume up on Wheel of Fortune. Tessa's friends showed up at my door with donuts, telling me she wasn't doing well, that she just wanted to talk. I gave them one sentence in return. Tell her to talk to my lawyer. I officially rented a small apartment on the other side of town, just enough space to live. The balcony catches morning sunlight. The little plant I kept alive through all of it, still standing. My dad came by to fix a crooked cabinet door. My mom drops off banana bread every weekend. No one says much. They're just there, and that's enough. I hired a lawyer my mom knew. Not some high-profile name, just someone solid, someone who's handled 100 quiet divorces. We didn't argue about who was right or wrong. It was just paperwork, signatures, and a list of things to divide. The blender, the old knife set, a camping kit we never used. Tessa dragged her feet. One week she wanted reconciliation. The next she was back on social media, spinning tales of betrayal by the man she once trusted. My mom started saving screenshots. I didn't even bother looking anymore. We finalized everything on a gray, drizzly morning. Nobody said a word. The lawyer took care of it all. Signatures, envelopes, the handoff of documents. And that was it. She moved into some new apartment complex. I kept to myself. There was no celebration, no sense of victory, but there was no regret either. I started sleeping again, rereading old books, playing music in the kitchen on Sunday mornings. And when someone asks, how's Lucas doing these days? I don't have to fake a smile anymore. I don't feel the need to retell the whole story. Because I know, and now plenty of others know too, that I was never the man she made me out to be. And more importantly, I didn't let her be the one to end my story. If you believe everyone deserves the chance to tell their own side, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next brutally honest, painfully real confession.